Good morning. I'm here today with Andreas Tsindos. Pleasure to have you here, Andreas. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to do this interview for the Future Blockchain Summit. My name is Andreas Tsindos. I'm a civil engineer by trade and got into the technology space via telecoms and moved into telecom systems, then mobile value added services, predominantly in the telecom space for nearly 7 to 10 years. Then I started my company, MWAN Mobile, about 10 years ago, coming up to 11 years now. And through the last 10 years, we have had our own technology development teams. And through that, we started off in mobile value added services, because that's the background I came from. And then we developed kind of 3-4 verticals now that we basically focus on. One is in financial technology, one is in the blockchain space, and one is in the kind of traditional bespoke development space. So in the financial technology space, we focus on mobile wallets. So we have an enabler that we're calling Magic Payments. And what Magic Payments allows you to do is basically interoperate global mobile wallet ecosystems. So we are not a mobile wallet as such. We are just an enabler, facilitation payments, facilitation platform that allows us to interoperate. We are financially regulated by the UK FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, for this, which basically allows us to connect and enable cross-border global remittances into these mobile wallet ecosystems. So think of us like a SWIFT for mobile wallets, in effect. So our target is micro remittances, so the $50 to $100, maybe $200 kind of mark, and we are focusing on the instant aspect of what the mobile wallet allows you to do. So you send money instantly cross-border, it lands into a recipient's mobile wallet account, and then they can utilize it and use it as that mobile wallet allows them to do locally in their country. And
I actually have a question about that. There's a lot of workers here who send money back home to their families. How is your product sort of gonna revolutionize or speed up the remittance process? Because right now, I believe they go to an exchange, they
Exactly.
send their money back, and it takes a few days. How important is it for it to be like sort of instant, so their family can get the money they need when they need it?
Exactly. So the instant aspect is very, very crucial, because you're also talking micro remittances. So the workers here don't get paid that much, as we know. So for them, it's very cost sensitive to them. So if you charge them 10 dirhams to send 200 300 dirhams, because that's kind of typically how much they're sending, maybe 400, it's a lot of money for them. So if you can bring the costs down as well, to a price point that makes it really affordable for them, that's a key factor, and that's what we're going after. So from the UK outbound that we're going to start is, we're trying to bring it down to the 99p model. So it's below the pound mark to send anywhere into a mobile wallet, and that's instant as well. So you don't have to wait, as you say, 1, 2, sometimes 3 days to receive the money. So think of somebody here wakes up in the morning and has a relative's wedding, birthday, or whatever, and you send them a small amount just to say thank you or happy birthday, or happy wedding if you can't be there. So this kind of model doesn't exist right now. So you have to get up, go to an exchange, stand in line. And we see the people here in Dubai, for example, on a Friday, their day off, spending maybe an hour or more standing in line to send money, and they have to go to the bank, cash the money out, and then put it into the exchange, and then the exchange sends it, and then it cash on the other side. So this kind of process is very cumbersome, very laborious, time taking. So this is what we're disrupting with this solution.
And where do you see, like, which regions do you see this sort of, which regions are you focusing on with your product? Is it more in like the GCC Middle East region, or do you see like a big market for this in the UK? Because I do believe there are quite a lot of foreign workers in the UK as well.
Yeah. So the basically we're targeting all the routes where the kind of mobile money transfers are happening. What even global remittances, they're not mobile money right now, because most of this and it's planned, I think it's forecast to hit $1 trillion a year by 2023, I believe. The pandemic might have kind of changed some of that, but still the remittance market has remained steady. I think they had a kind of 10-15% drop due to the global pandemic, but it's still going up now. So the GCC market, for example, is worth about 80 or 90 billion dollars a year of remittances going out. So it's about 10% of the market. So I think the UAE alone is about 15 to 20 billion a year that gets sent out from the UAE. Pretty much zero value of that goes into mobile wallet accounts or lands into mobile wallet accounts locally in places like Pakistan, India, Philippines, which Bangladesh, Egypt, which are the big kind of routes out of the UAE. So we're focusing on the routes. So UK outbound, for example, there's about 3 million Pakistanis living in the UK, and around £1.5 billion worth of value gets transferred from the UK to Pakistan every year. Again, pretty much zero of that goes into the mobile wallet ecosystems in Pakistan. So just to give you an example and an idea of kind of what we're talking about, Pakistan population is about 280 million, something like that. Bank accounts in the country, we're talking maybe 10%, 15%. Now, mobile wallet accounts that everybody has, like EasyPay, JazzCash, Ubank, we're talking maybe 80 to 90 million. So you're talking maybe, it's coming up to about 50% of the population. It's growing. So it's forecast to go to 70% of the population having a mobile wallet on their phone.
Yeah.
So obviously that's kind of their financial instrument, is kind of their bank, if you like.
Sure.
So this product is also very much in the financial inclusion space. So you're allowing that money to go into their stored value account that they have with that mobile wallet, and then they can actually use that stored value to buy goods, because now merchants are adopting these payment instruments.
For sure. And are you sort of trying to integrate your product with like banks, or is this sort of like a standalone product? Like do banks sort of look at this and exchanges look at this and they see like, oh, this is something we would like to integrate to make the process faster for our customers? Or are you sort of, is this like a standalone?
So there is a direct to consumer proposition where you can go and use the service to send money, but there's also the bigger play is the B2B to C kind of part. So the solution is white labeled. You can have a bank use the solution and integrate it within their mobile banking app, and within that mobile banking app they can have an icon that says send money, and then once that happens, then they utilize our kind of API infrastructure in the back end that will allow their customers, bank customers, to use the money that they have in their bank accounts to basically make this cross-border remittances through the solution. Now, obviously, we're not competitors with them, and also the exchanges, the same can be done with the exchanges. They have their license right now, the exchanges, to accept cash. We don't deal with cash. All ours is online, electronic. So they have the license to accept the cash, like you do now, but then they can enable an interface that they themselves, and we partner with them, for they themselves to use a solution. It's a white label solution for the exchanges, for example, Alphadan or whatever, can use those kind of integration points to make the final payments into the mobile wallets using our infrastructure. And this is kind of where I see the future of the solution to be. It's more of a white label B2B, but starting direct to consumer gives you the credibility, shows that you've proven the product and the concept.
For sure.
And also we have the regulation that allows us to do that, because without the regulation, you can't go to somebody, you can't go to a bank or an exchange, say, here's my solution, because they're going to say, well, we're a regulated entity, we can't work with non-regulated entities. So that's why we took the decision to become regulated, fully compliant, do our AML, KYC checks via bank rate partners. So all that is in place.
And you mentioned that this project is powered by blockchain technology. Is that correct? Or
well, no, because it's financially regulated. So now, any financially regulated instrument, as we know, the regulators are not still not allowing the blockchain element to be. However, our other product I mentioned, which is the blockchain enabler platform that we have, is can be integrated at any time between the two solutions. So when regulation allows, then we expect the two to be integrated together and gain the benefit of the decentralized ledger protocols of the blockchain to verify those transactions, give regulatory overview of these transactions, that the KYC AML has been done, and make it a much stronger and secure product. And then you can even allow a token economy to be built into the product as well, if needed. So you can cross-operate between a token economy and the fiat economy. And that's the ultimate goal, to build that bridge between the two ecosystems. That's subject to regulation, and right now there's no jurisdiction that allows this to happen. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult, very expensive where you can do it, and it's all with prepaid cards and things like that. So the mobile wallets are really not there yet in terms of integrating this to allow this model. So for us, that's
the ultimate goal.
That's the ultimate goal, and we have the infrastructure in place that will allow this. And as soon as the regulation is there, and now the regulators, as you may know, are really looking at it. So the UAE, for example, has recently allowed the mobile wallet ecosystems to be regulated. I've been in discussions with the central bank for the last 5 years about this, and to date, they still don't have that regulation that the FCA in the UK has given me.
Why do you think it's such a challenge with regulators, and why does it take so much time as such? Is there a bit of skepticism towards blockchain technology, or not, lack of understanding about it? Or
it's lack of understanding, and the technology and the crypto world gets muddled up quite significantly. They're trying to separate the two, and the understanding. So in fact, the FCA UK, when I last discussed with them, and I did my submissions back to them for the regulation I have, they actually saw on the website that I mentioned blockchain development, and they said, by the way, maybe you should consider this new regulation that we have. Maybe you should go for that because you've mentioned on your website. So they're actually being quite proactive in this case, and I was quite surprised on this, that they took that initiative to say, look, we see that you're doing something with blockchain. We do have this regulation that we've brought in, mm-hmm. which captures this elements and activities. Mm-hmm. So look at that to see if you need to be compliant, and you should apply for that. So that was quite nice. So they are starting to understand it. They're starting to get it, but there's also vested interest.
Yeah.
So, for the UAE, the reason that the regulator hasn't gone for it is not in the traditional mobile wallet space. It's not because of lack of regulation in the traditional fiat mobile wallet space. It's due to the way the ecosystem and economy is running. So here, it was always predominantly cash. The exchange houses and banks are quite powerful. So it's only now that they're seeing the way that they can, monetize this. Let's be fair with it.
Yeah.
So without cannibalizing their existing business. So now the central bank is taking this on board. They are allowing kind of the financial technology kind of space and open banking, open API economy to develop, and that obviously needs the regulation that allows kind of payment instruments like mobile wallets to exist. For example, here still to this day we have the eDirham wallet. Now eDirham wallet's been in the market for maybe 7 years, maybe more, and still to this day, if you have an eDirham wallet account and I have an eDirham wallet account, we're not allowed to send money to each other between those accounts. Even it is the same ecosystem, same wallet system, we're still not allowed to send peer-to-peer transfers between it. And it was set up to be kind of paying government services with. So you go and put money, create a stored value, and you pay the government services. So it was never meant to be a peer-to-peer. Now it's starting to, because of the new regulations. So there's Etisalat has set up a new wallet. I think it's MPay, I think, is in the market, which is kind of more of a banking instrument. So the banks have set up kind of their wallet ecosystem. So it's still very fragmented and still very non-interoperable between the different ecosystems. And this is why we set up Magic Payments. We built that kind of interoperability layer. We're not competing with any of these existing ecosystems. We enable this ecosystem to develop and grow. And that's how we see it. So the blockchain part will come in from a technology perspective, from a kind of token economy perspective. At some point, again, it will come, because ultimately, what is a mobile wallet? What's the stored value? You're tokenizing the real currency.
Yeah.
Lots of the central banks now are looking at tokenizing their currency.
Yeah, central bank digital
currencies. So ultimately, at some point, it will come. And then if you have some kind of exchange out there that, a Bitcoin or Ethereum, well, you have those already, can be translated back to a real kind of central bank currency, then that's what you have. I mean, that's what PayPal's doing, and that's what kind of the mobile wallet ecosystem will have to do as well. So I see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. And you seem to be involved in many spaces. You're heavily involved in the fintech space. You're setting up things so when the legislation comes, you're ready in the blockchain space. Is it like, and you also have the tech development side, don't you? So is it challenging to have your hands in so many different pies? And is it like, is the development different and challenging in each of these sectors? Like, how do they differ more specifically?
So the development-wise, I'm quite fortunate because I've started the company with development team in place. So I have my own development team, and I've grew it up over the last 10 years to be a really good, solid team, end to end. From designers to application developers to backend developers, SEO, etc. So we can kind of cater across the board in terms of our bespoke customer development projects. If you wanted an app, for example, or a website for this, we can do that.
Yeah.
No problem. But also we kind of built that capability into developing the Magic Payments platform, and also our blockchain enabler platform. And technologies obviously are different. So I think it was around June, July 2015 when I started looking at the blockchain. I think the Bitcoin price went up again. At that point I thought, okay, there's something here, I have to look at this. So I've read kind of 5-6 weeks reading all white papers, what is all
Went
about.
Down the rabbit hole.
I really did. And then after that I said, okay, the technology is here to stay. It's been powering this thing called Bitcoin for the last 8 years at the time, or however many it was. There's something here. It's not been compromised, it's not been hacked. The hacks have happened because of the actual exchanges being broken into, not the actual technology itself having any issues. So I said to my team, guys, we need to become blockchain developers. So we spent 6 months, my existing development team, because at the time there weren't many blockchain developers, and still not many blockchain developers out there. If you want to get a blockchain developer, for example, in Switzerland, they're charging like $250,000 a year to have a blockchain developer, a decent, experienced blockchain developer with 3 to 5 years experience. You're talking about that much money that they're hiring them at. So so I basically made them into blockchain developers, or they made themselves into blockchain developers by reading up on the technology. We downloaded the whole of the Bitcoin blockchain onto our servers, played about with it. Then Ethereum came in at the time, and I said to my team, let's go on Ethereum. It's supposed to be the 2.0 of blockchains. Let's start using that. And at the time, nothing was working, so we reverted back to Bitcoin. And then when Ethereum was more mature, we went back to that. We basically developed, and the way I saw it at the time was to develop the platform in such a way that you're agnostic to the decentralized protocols. Ultimate is a protocol. We're not actually right now thinking, how this smartphone is working, how it's connecting to that tower there, how it's allowing the transmission of data through it. We want our Facebook to work. We want the services that enables us to function and serve us.
For sure, yeah. And users don't really care about the complicated aspects of it.
Exactly. So, and companies again don't really care about that. That's why everybody's migrating to cloud, because they don't want to maintain servers. You have services like AWS, Azure, etc. managing that for you now, so you don't even need to care about infrastructure. So again, the protocol level you don't care about. You have your internet service providers managing your internet, you have your infrastructure providers managing the infrastructure. So what you focus on is the services you're enabling. So if you're a hospital, it's patient care. If you're a telecoms provider, it's making sure that you're providing that communication service. If you're Facebook, make sure your app is up, and making sure that the elements are there to facilitate that. So that's how I approached the blockchain enabler. That I said to my team, what are the basic functionality that's going to be needed for a company that has no idea about blockchain. They don't really want to have an idea what blockchain is, but they want to enable the values and intrinsic value to their business that it can actually give.
For sure.
So what is needed? You need kind of a service integration layer. You need a kind of a middleware type of environment like you have now. I always use the example of Microsoft. You want to write a formula, you don't go and write Excel, you go and use Excel.
Yeah.
So they've done their job for you. Same with Word. So again, build those tools, build those integration layer through a platform as a service, enterprise grade platform as a service, where any business, you go and talk to them, say, have you thought about how this technology can help you? Once they kind of have that use case in mind and define that use case, then we basically develop the API integration that they can then call the protocols, which we've built adapters into through our platform, to enable their use case and their business to gain the benefit from the blockchain technology.
How important is it for them to define their use case? It can't really be like, oh, I want to use blockchain technology, let's just go use it. How important is it for them to define the specific use case? Because blockchain can't really be used for everything, right?
So exactly. So we are again agnostic to the use case as well. So agnostic to the use case, agnostic to the underlying blockchain protocol that potentially that use case will need. So over the last 5 years, we've actually delivered real technology, real solutions to companies, and enabled them to actually see value through using a decentralized ledger protocol. So we've done, for example, Abu Dhabi Health Authority, birth certificate issuance. They built it on top of our enterprise blockchain platform. And there was a use case as well that we had the Ministry of Interior verify those birth certificates that were issued to allow the issuance of the passport against that immutably verified birth certificate that was issued by the Health Ministry. So that's one use case. So we've done a physical commodity exchange platform for a Singaporean company, for example, and there's kind of an end-to-end commodity trading platform, physical commodity trading platform, where they've just run around $6.6 billion worth of transactions through it. They've launched on NASDAQ, and it's really proven the case of how an immutably verified ledger of transactions can really give value to a company's use case or to an ecosystem. So they have about 30 or 40 companies now onto this platform that kind of allows the trading, allows the certification to be verified of that commodity. There's lots of fraud and manipulation in this physical commodity trading space. Trade finance is very expensive. So, on average, when I sat with the company to work out the end-to-end flow, on average it was taking around 180 days to complete an end-to-end physical commodity trade. So we managed to take that down to under 28 days through using the platform. So because it gave the kind of validation, the certification, there was no errors or less errors that were happening through the process. And for example, right now, if you issue a letter of credit and you send that to the other bank to verify it, to basically allow the trade to happen, even if you have a typo of a spelling mistake or something like that, they will just send it back. So that alone could take potentially 3 weeks back and forth. Paper, kind of stacks of paper like that, moving between countries, going from London to Singapore and back again, between banks, traders calling each other saying, "Oh, where's the money? Has it been released? Oh, yeah, it's been released. Oh, but not all of it's been released." It's a very messy process, and even adding this kind of layer where you can actually, have comfort that you're, you're building trust in a completely trustless environment. So I don't trust you, you don't trust me. However, we're building this trust through this decentralized ledger platform that gives us, and also you're given a regulatory aspect overview of this. So, whether it's anti-money laundering, whether it's making sure that the goods have not been falsified, or the goods are genuine and not being, fake. So you're building that value add as well within the ecosystem. So it's an interesting model, I think. And coming back to your question, how companies are actually, what do they need to know? In the beginning, most of them didn't need to know, so you had to educate them. Over the last couple of years, obviously companies are looking at it and say, "I want to use blockchain," or "I have this in mind. Is there something that we can use?" So the first part of any engagement that we do is kind of a consultancy, kind of, not even consultancy, but sitting down and telling them and explaining to them what potentially it can do for them. So they might come with a use case already in mind. You talk to them about it, and then they see lots of other potential, and then you have to hold them back after that. Say, "Whoa, hold on, let's try this, prove it, make sure that it's okay with you." And we never kind of go in saying, you have to replace everything with blockchain. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to go into a big company and say to them, "All you have right now is rubbish. You need to use this, and it's the best thing since sliced bread." It's not going to happen. So you go in and say, "Right, your business as usual is not going to change in any way. You add another kind of parallel process which course, these APIs, which are standard technology for your team, you don't have to change anything on your side. All you need to do is basically call another, few APIs into your existing process, and then you see value at the end. And then you assess the value, and if it's giving you value, then you go to the next level, and then at some point, the whole ecosystem that you're with will also be on the same kind of wavelength, the same platform, potentially, or the same technology, and then that's how it's gonna happen. You won't be able to boil the ocean, as they say, from day one. So, and it has to have the ecosystem, without everybody being on the same kind of platform. Not even platform, same protocol. So right now, there's lots of companies trying to sell their own blockchain solution, or their own blockchain, their own protocol. Well, how many internet protocols are there? It's pretty much one, isn't there? Everybody's using that. So the standards are there. Why is the mobile phone so ubiquitous? It's because you can talk to anybody in the world right now from this device.
For sure.
Yeah, because the standard has been set. Every mobile operator in the world is using the same standard, so it's become interoperable. So until we get to that space where there isn't this blockchain and that blockchain, because that just confuses everybody. They don't know why they should be using that. Again, as I said, as a user, I should not be caring about what blockchain this service that I've enabled is using.
And that's why your platform is also protocol agnostic, like it can integrate with every blockchain protocol.
Yeah, so we've built the adapters that allows us to call the different protocols. So that's basically the main value of the platform, is this adapters that we've developed. So we have a Bitcoin adapter, we have an Ethereum, we have a Hyperledger, we have a Besu one now. So Besu is going to be the kind of European standard now. So they're using Besu from the European Union, and the European Union countries are kind of implementing kind of their nodes, and they're trying to build that infrastructure. We worked on R3, on Stellar, and there's one more I keep forgetting. There's 7 altogether we have right now. So EOS, that's it. So those kind of, depending on the use case. So if you said, look, I really need a smart contract, I would like a smart contract. Right now, you probably use Ethereum for that. It's the most de facto standard protocol to use if you want to build some smart contract logic. If you really wanted to have a permissioned ledger, which I don't believe in, I don't believe in the type of hyperledgers, etc. Because ultimately, a fully decentralized protocol is what the whole thing is about. You need to have it decentralized. But if have a protocol which you have a node and I have a node, and we manage that and control it, how's that different to a centralized system between us? It doesn't make sense. We need to have all those other people, which we don't know, and they don't know us, verify our transactions between us. And what we've developed here in the middle is the element where we can actually permission each other. So the middleware enabler allows us to identify us between us and give us kind of asset management. So asset could be, I don't know, me giving you this coffee, for example. That's an asset, or a digital version of that coffee, or whatever. So an asset could be anything, and then you basically kind of permission that via kind of encryption, etc. So the permissionings happen here, and then we write the hashes of those transactions onto the public blockchains that actually give us that immutability and verification. So we know that a transaction may have happened between Khaled and Andreas, for example, but we don't know that it was a coffee being given to each other, for example, or how much you've bought this TV, for example, off me, because your competitor shouldn't know how much you've sold me that TV, for example. It's a simple use case, but that's the kind of the way we've built the enterprise enabler.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually an interesting point you just raised. Private versus public blockchains.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes companies are reluctant to share their private info. What do you think? Like, how will it work essentially? How do I word this?
No, look.
Like, what are the challenges with private versus public blockchains essentially?
Okay, so as I said, a private blockchain ultimately is, okay, it does have kind of some decentralization between an ecosystem, but ultimately it's still kind of semi-centralized, I would say. And public blockchain is governed and permissioned and verified by this kind of fully decentralized ecosystem, and that's how it should be in my view. So ultimately, the sharing of data it doesn't. So a blockchain for me, protocol is not a database, for example. It shouldn't be a database. You're managing data or assets in a way that you allow permission to view and see. So, one of the solutions we developed, we're calling it Bring Your Own ID, but it again, it's a white label identity solution. So what this kind of application allows you right now to do is manage your own identity and credentials. Okay. So, and the GDPR compliancy and privacy and data laws that are coming in are really going to force this into play. So right now, GDPR basically says that if I'm your customer, once I'm no longer your customer, you need to delete all the data that you have on me off your systems. Now, there's two ways of doing this. All the data that I've given you for you to provide me that service, for example, you're a bank, I've given you my passport, that's issued by another authority. I've given you my Emirates ID, again, another authority. I've given you, my previous bank statement, for example, again, another authority, another bank. So all the data I've given you is not data that has been generated by that service provider. There's some of that accepted.
Yeah.
However, a lot of the data I'm giving you to verify me, to identify me, to offer me the service is coming from somewhere else that I'm giving you permission and access to have. Now, right now, all that data needs to go on somebody's systems, maintain it, etc. Now they're saying, well, I'm not a customer anymore, so delete it. So what we've developed is a way that through this middleware layer, as explained, is give you access to that data, and I control that access. So if I'm no longer your customer, I sever the access. You're compliant because you've never held that data. You've maintained a compliancy link to that data. So from a regulator perspective, for example, for a bank, you've done your checks because you've already verified that information, which is sitting and coming through a decentralized immutable protocol. So nobody can change it. So if, for example, my Emirates ID expires and a new one gets issued, then I'll point it to the new one. The old one is still there because obviously it's immutable, nobody can delete it.
Yeah.
But I just point the link to the new Emirates ID. You're still compliant because you've updated my identification into your system or into your dashboard. So you're still pointing to the right Andreas with the latest Emirates ID. The old one is still there, but it's invalid, and that blockchain link, it's been superseded. Like in the blockchain protocols, the chains, you can have multiple chains, but it's only one that's the real one and the verified one.
That seems like an amazing product, especially now with lots of privacy and data concerns, especially in regards to like social media platforms.
Yeah.
That seems extremely valuable and quite game changing to sort of have the power in your hands to sort of sever the data link between you and another company.
And we have certain different levels as well of data. So kind of a level 5 is kind of, opening a bank account. You can have a level 1, which is a social media account, for example, and you give access and permissions according, to the different levels permission that you want to do, and you can update it. As I said, if one document expires, you basically update and maintain it, and you create basically a Khaled block ID, for example.
Yeah.
And that Khaled block ID is there, gets updated as needed, but you can't change it, I can't change it, and we'll just give access to that. So me as a bank, I have a link and I have access to level 5, which gives me access to all your documents stored. Or if I'm Facebook, I have level 1, which is just whatever. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea. And again, a lot of these products, so MWAN Mobile hasn't taken any investment over the last 10 years, grown organically, etc. So the kind of the magic payments, the blockchain enabler, this bring your own ID are kind of now products as such in a way. So there is potential there that can be spun off. They have their own companies behind them as well. So they have their own entities. So it can be taken as needed. We'll see. So the IP transfer will happen through the kind of mother company as such. So,
my final question is, what sort of like sector or use case do you see blockchain succeeding the most? And you have some different products and different sort of achieving different use cases. Which do you think will be the most successful or used?
Any industry that has a regulatory aspect to it, I think it's very ripe for decentralized blockchain technologies. So financial kind of elements, the supply chain, regulatory, and also kind of trustless environments. You need to build this trust. Then this is where the technology will really be suitable. So medical, for example, in the healthcare space, this counterfeiting of drugs is very prominent. We've seen it now with the COVID vaccinations. There's been so many fake vaccinations out on the market. How do you kind of manage? You're never going to stop the counterfeiting. That's for sure. What you do though, you're basically immutably verifying that chain and supply chain of those goods. So, for example, if you're a bad actor and you've got the fake goods and you put them into the supply chain, if I identify that batch that's come from you and you don't want to be part of the ecosystem that is basically verifying the supply chain, we'll just throw you out straight away. So you basically weed out those bad apples. You might still have the goods, you might sell them somewhere else, but if more people come onto kind of an immutably verified decentralized ledger managing those goods, that is where you're not going to have anywhere to go, and that's the ultimate goal of the supply chain. Finance the same. So they have lots of issues right now with AML, KYC, etc. You can help them in that, and then there's the token economy. So the tokenization, the crypto part of what the technology allows you to do. As I said, when all the central banks launch their own digital currency, it's going to become kind of an accepted form of payment. So a lot of the ecosystems. So we did we enabled a existing cashback solution based out of 6 countries in Europe, and they launched a token. And why did they launch a token? They have already 200 or 300,000 users using their cashback solution. They have a prepaid card, etc. So why did they want to launch a token? So they did a kind of a pre-sale. They had investment for the token, and the token basically has become an incentivized token for usage within the ecosystem. So the more tokens you have, you can
stake it and then earn.
Exactly, you get more cash back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The more tokens I have as a merchant, the more premium service I can offer you and incentivize you to buy from me. Okay, so it's become kind of a token economy in a real economy. Still buying physical goods, you're still using a prepaid card, you're still getting your cash back, but you can get your cash back in a token form now as well, because next time, instead of having 1,000 tokens, you have 2,000 tokens, then instead of getting 1% back, you get 2% back. Simple example. So that's kind of
for sure. I find that really interesting as well with like governance, where you're incentivized to hold a token by sort of like voting on what the project should do, etc. I find that super interesting, and I'd be interested to see what happens with decentralized autonomous organizations and that respect. But yeah, just we'll and leave it on the final remarks. Should I just say any final words you'd like to have?
So again, thanks very much for your time. And I think for me, I've looked at the blockchain from a technologist perspective. That's been from day one. The crypto world, Bitcoin might be here today, but you never know. It might not be here, but it might be another token, and etc. So I think that world, it's more fluid and more flexible, but the actual technology itself will remain, and that's how I kind of taken the long-term view in this, and developing a middleware enabler, enterprise grade enabler. I think that's where it's going to be ultimately. We've got cloud service providers. 15 years ago, there was so many cloud service providers. How many are left? 3 or 4 major ones that everybody's using. Same's going to happen in the kind of blockchain protocol space. I think there's going to be a standard at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
And companies would just be using it without even knowing. Like we use the protocol level now without really knowing that we're using it as such. And there will be a space for different elements in this thing. But the ultimate one is bringing kind of the elements of the blockchain, the token crypto world, and bridging the existing kind of fiat and financial world. And decentralized finance is actually doing this quite nicely. It's still in its very infancy stage, because of kind of the people involved in decentralized finance are just looking at kind of
making the big bucks.
Making the big bucks short term. Most of them are traders, so basically they're using it for trading. They launch a token. Oh, that's gone,
1,000%.
1,000%. It's gone from 0.001 to 0.005. For them that's great, because they've put $1,000 for them. They've made $5,000 overnight. But ultimately, that's good, and we'll go back to some of the ICO days a little bit. But what it actually does as decentralized finance is basically enhance the existing financial services.
Yeah, there's like a playground for innovation, because there's like a lack of regulation in that space right now, isn't there? So people are just like coming up with the strangest yet the most interesting projects, and it's interesting to see which ones are left in the years to come.
And this is the good thing, because it allows that innovation. And at some point, like now, the centralized banks are launching their own kind of cryptocurrency in effect, and tokenizing the money that they issue as a central bank. Well, that's taken them how many years now? Nearly 15 years to get to that stage. And it's probably going to be another 10 years, maybe 5 to 10 years before that becomes an accepted form of between the central bank and ecosystems to settle with each other. So it's taken, say, 20 years. Well, now we need to think of the decentralized finance. Probably not going to take 20 years. It might take 10 years. So every time this innovation comes in, it gets shorter and shorter before it actually gets kind of accepted and credible, and things like that. So it will come then. Decentralized finance, again, it cuts out the middleman.
For sure.
And in the existing financial systems, how many middlemen do we have? We have all these kind of middle banks. So when you send the transfer, you have to have a middle bank, and by the time your payment goes through, you send $1,000, cross border somewhere, paying an invoice, and then there's a $60 charge. I mean, it's like it's so much.
Insane, yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it's not our bank. It's the middle bank. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So why should I pay somebody $30 to be a middle bank? Or why should you have to pay somebody just to do that? So it's this settlement process that is flawed, and I think that's where it's going to be.
For sure, I definitely look forward to the developments in the blockchain space, and I very much look forward to the developments you make in your products and solutions. I look forward to speaking to you in October when the Future Blockchain Summit and FinTech Surgery are going to be running. Thank you so much for your time, and it's been an amazing conversation. I've learned so much from you.
Thank you.
I look forward to learning more when I see you in October. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.